Welcome back to Out of Possession. And at the moment, there's only one narrative in football that matters, and that's the Premier League. It's the title. Are Arsenal going to bottle it? We're going to break it down and discuss it all today. And who better to be joined by than the number one Arsenal fan on TikTok? Wally, how you doing, mate?
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you for the kind words, man. Yeah, no, absolutely honor. I wanted to come on for the Carabao Cup final, but I wasn't able to. I thought that now is better though. There's more on the line here. It almost feels like whoever wins this almost wins the league. But we'll find out. We'll find out. How you feeling though? Yeah.
I'm feeling very, very good. Obviously, Man City have lots of momentum at the moment. We're playing very well, and you're playing not so well. The recent results haven't been great. Obviously, you got through in the Champions League last night with a thrilling 0-0 draw against Sporting. I'm sure you're really glad you watched that instead of Bayern Real
No,
Madrid.
I had both on the screen, so I had obviously I have to put the Arsenal on the big screen, but I can't lie, I did have Bayern on the laptop and watching that. I'll be honest, I was a bit more tapped in with that one. That was just especially the first half, end to end, bro. The football, I think that is almost how football should be played, man. Where like all the top teams at their level just going band for band. I feel like now it's just become a little bit too like tactical, which obviously makes sense. It wins you games, wins you trophies or whatever, but that made me really miss football, man. I don't know about you, but what a game.
Yes, I was absolutely exhausted last night. So I watched probably the most exciting game of the season, trying not to fall asleep, which is unfortunate. But as well, I just think with stuff like that, it kind of annoys me watching that game, which sounds crazy because I just look at Bayern Munich and just think, what are you doing in that situation?
That is true, yeah,
To
yeah.
give the keys to Real Madrid almost, because they're a team obviously that loves to play in the transition. And
Mm.
I think company probably should have shown a bit of pragmatism there to think maybe we'll just slow it down and control it. And I think he did do that more in the
In the
second
second
half.
half, yeah.
Yes, they won the game because of the red card, but I think the second half was better for Bayern, despite
Yeah.
the chances being quite equal, just because they're giving less opportunity for guys like Mbappe and Vinny to shine.
Hundred
Right?
percent. I think the second half, even without the red card, I thought like Bayern would have probably gone through anyways. Maybe not in like the fashion that they ended up going through and quite last minute. I thought it was going to go extra time, to be honest, with like the way the game was panning out. But I think that, especially in that first half, then company kind of showed a little bit of like naivety when it came to like management in terms of just letting Madrid have so much space. Like I think obviously bringing on Davies at halftime did help, but yeah, it just shows, bro. You never count out Madrid, bro, ever, especially in the Champions League. I mean, the performances like from Bellingham, I thought yesterday was brilliant. Mbappe with a great goal. Vinny, I'm not gonna lie, bar that assist, oh, generational thinker. But nah, yeah, I think they've got I think Bayern are good still. I think that against PSG is gonna be potentially tie the season if it's not this one already. But yeah, obviously we've got Atleti, so we'll see.
What's really interesting for me is like I think Arteta's like the antithesis of a company, right? He's ultimate pragmatism. Like he will be pragmatic in a game against like West Brom,
No,
which I
right.
think it leads to a really interesting matchup when you play, if you play now, one of
Mhm.
those Bayern Munich, the PSGs. I was really excited to watch Arsenal against Barcelona, and then
Yeah,
they
I
went
wanted that
one
so bad, man. Honestly.
which I can't believe because I think that'd have been a great game just to see how you guys can stack up against these teams because I think you'll do much better than people think. They watch these exciting football of PSG and Bayern Munich, and people kind of associate excitement and entertainment with
Yeah,
effectiveness. But I
no,
don't think that's really true at all. Often the most effective football is quite boring football.
no, you're right.
So I wonder if Arsenal, if you get your references right, like you did when you played Bayern Munich in the league phase, I think you could win that game quite comfortably.
Yeah. The things I don't know, because the only thing is with obviously the league phase and now there's just first of all the stakes are completely different and so much higher. And another thing is I don't think we're the same team as we were in the group phase. I think in the group phase a lot of people were saying like the around football whatever at the time, but I thought the football we played was brilliant to be honest. Sorry, my language. So, but I thought the football we played at the time was brilliant, genuinely, in terms of like soaking up pressure when we needed to dominate the ball, like consistently creating chances for those corners that we were scoring. I think now it's almost been a thing of we have been struggling in general just to create chances. So even the same with like maybe Atletico, the same Atleti team that we beat 4-0 as well. Like I think now they're much more defensively sound, although I feel like they kind of almost in the way where Bayern did with Madrid, I think they kind of let Barcelona back into the game way too easily. But again, I think that shows the experience of Simeone just kind of shutting up shop a little bit when he needed to, getting that goal in the transition. And then when you look at what they have on the transition, you got Griezmann, who's playing some of the best football of his career right now, in my opinion, in that deeper role with Alvarez and Lookman all and Simeone all just running at you. And it's just like, I'm not gonna lie, they're clinical up front and they don't really concede many goals. So I think it's going to be a difficult battle. I think a lot of people trying to like believe in 2026 that Simeone plays this like terrible anti-style football is it's a bit dodgy, it's a bit stupid to be honest. Because I mean, I think they are a very good team to watch. I enjoyed them against Barcelona. I enjoyed them against Real Madrid last season as well in the Champions League. I think they can perform when they need to. So I'm not gonna lie, I probably would have preferred facing Barcelona because I feel like they would have not only it would have been like a better game and a better spectacle, but also I think that would have probably suited us a bit more in terms of the way that they play. Because obviously, like the highlight and stuff, you give Martinelli that highlight and the highlight's game over. But with Atleti, it's going to be a bit difficult to kind of create those chances. Although to be fair, I thought their line was quite high in that Barca game, but I don't think they'll do that against us. It's almost as if like it's almost as if like you got Atleti and Arsenal, which is like the anti-football tie, and then you got PSG Bayern, which is like the final before the final. It's quite funny how that shaped out.
Yeah, I think it's interesting what you said about Simeone, how he's not playing this anti-football, and I think he's kind of switched back that way. It's nowhere near as bad as it used to be. Like when we're talking like Man City, Atletico in the Champions League, that was god awful, horrible stuff. But he really went almost the other way quite recently. I think last season Atletico were quite expensive, and for the first part of this season, you could argue they're quite expensive. And I think, like you say, they have gone back to be more defensive securely recently, but they still are a team that can be exciting going forwards. They don't try and dominate territory and dominate the ball like the best teams do, if you like, but that doesn't mean they don't carry attacking threat. Like you say, they've got Alvarez, Griezmann, Lookman. They're dangerous on transition. I think it's something people are maybe a bit, like you say, naive to think he's this anti-football manager. But you said as well there that you don't think Arsenal are the same team that they were at the start of the season. And I'd agree with that. But why do you think your levels dropped? Do you think it's fatigue, or do you think it's down to people figuring Arteta out a bit?
Do you know what it is? I think it's both. Mainly, I'd say in regards to the fatigue and like the football that we're playing. I mean, when we were initially dominating on all fronts, going for like all 4 trophies, that's already like 40, 50 games of football that's being played, and you're in February, and you got guys like Declan Rice or Zubimendi or like even Gyökeres or Saliba, Gabriel. They're playing twice a week, every week for the past like 5-6 months. So eventually, it's going to catch up to you. Obviously, Gabriel has had injury spells this year. Same with Saliba. Rice has literally, played for an injury. Arteta said this yesterday actually that Rice wasn't fit but still played 94 minutes. And when you look at those things where obviously it'd be great in an ideal world to bench them and to rest them, and maybe we don't have that luxury in comparison to a City right now because we just have so many players out. It's also necessary when you're trying to compete on all fronts. You know, with you guys getting knocked out, it's a bit easier for you with the one game a week as of now, bar maybe the FA Cup. But with us, it's like we still have a massive chance of potentially winning this whole thing. So I can understand it, but I'd also say, in a way, the football has been figured out. I think it's been figured out for a while, to be honest with you. I thought last season we should have probably tweaked the system a little bit, but I mean, last summer there were issues within the club in terms of obviously Edu leaving and not being able to get the transfers that we wanted in at the time. We only spent like I think 80 million in that transfer window, so it was nothing. And obviously we get Sterling in on loan and all of that stuff, so it's just not really in your hands. But I think this year should have been the time to definitely like actually get a full-on change in style, because we were getting figured out last season. I think we had like 12 draws in the end in the Premier League, and we were so far off winning that it wasn't even funny. But when you look back at now, like the main issue we're currently having is that build-up phase. It's almost as if now at the start people were going man to man, you could kind of just play through them, but now City almost giving the blueprint. The only issue is that I feel like City done that a little bit in the first game, where they did kind of like set up. They didn't really go man to man like pressing. They kind of just sat back and said, "Okay, come on to us and break us down." And when we had Ryan goal, we were playing through that press, especially in the first half. We were like kind of getting those chances and creating those chances. I remember, but when you have Kepa, who's just not as good on the ball, and it's just not as good a goalkeeper, playing in that final, it just played to their strength so well. And I think Bournemouth, and even Sporting in a way as well yesterday, we very much struggled in build-up in some cases yesterday in terms of trying to get through their blocks. They kind of set out the same way Bournemouth did with like the wingers being a bit narrow and the strikers kind of holding that width as well. So I do expect City to kind of do the same thing, because I saw them do that at Stamford Bridge as well. I think maybe in the first half wasn't to great effects. I thought Chelsea played through them a few times, but I'd be intrigued to see if they do that on Sunday, to be honest. But
yeah, I think that's the most interesting part of this game, because like you say, what we did was very, very effective against you guys, but we tried to do it against Liverpool and it was awful. Awful's harsh, but it wasn't very successful.
They were playing well,
game.
Yeah.
And then we tried to do it against Chelsea, and that was really bad. In the first half, I think I watched the game back. They played through our press 11 times,
wow,
which is insane. Obviously, they scored the goal that got disallowed from playing through the press again. I think the risk just isn't worth the reward, especially when Arteta will know it's coming. So he's had time to think of solutions. He's not trying to think on the spot. Those solutions will be coached, you'd think. Yeah. And I think there's so many solutions, especially if Odegaard's back, which is a maybe. Am I correct in saying?
Yeah, I don't think he'll be back, to be honest. If he is, he'll be on the bench, to be honest. Right. Odegaard, Saka, Timber, I don't think it's possible.
But even without Odegaard, like, you can still find ways to be able to play through it. Like, I don't think Zubimendi is anywhere near as bad as people make out he is at progressing the ball.
Yeah.
He's still a very, very good ball progressor. Same thing with Rice, maybe not to the same extent, but I think he can still play a pass, right? And you can drop these guys deep, and maybe even drop someone like Gyökeres deep just to try and manipulate the structure. There are ways, even with the personnel you have, to try and break the press down, because it's weak, if you like, when you know how to do it, because there are so many different ways you can break it. Even like you could just push up the fullbacks loads and try and win those aerial duels, which I think your squad suits. Like, there's so many different solutions to it. I think naturally Arsenal will find one, especially with David Wright in goal. I think what's more likely that we'll do is what we did in the second half against Chelsea. I don't know if you saw that, where it's the same structure, it's still that 4-2-4 kind of shape, but you're just being a bit more proactive and putting pressure on the ball. So you don't let the opposition, like in the first half against Chelsea, they were just really patient. They'd pass it around the back for like a minute and they just wait for the opportunity. And they can wait as long as they like, because there's no pressure on the ball. And all we changed in the second half was started pressurizing it, being slightly more aggressive, and we were just forcing long balls all the time. I think that's probably the best way to go against you guys.
Yeah. I think, do you know what, honestly, in regards to combating that system as well, I do think I'd probably have Havertz as the number 9, just because when you can get the ball up to him, he can let that ball stick. And when I see him in the 10 or in the midfield, he's not that, especially when he's getting the amount of like muscle mass that he has recently. He's not the same in terms of agility that he used to have when he was a bit more skinnier and stockier. When you look at, for example, the game in the final, I thought Gyökeres initially, like maybe the first 10, 15 minutes was in it, but then the moment when you started to set up that press, couldn't get the ball to him. And then when you had Havertz in that 10, who's meant to pick up the ball, not getting the second balls and struggling to get the ball in between them, it's difficult. I thought in the Everton game, when we started Havertz in the 9, that was some of the best football that we've played in this like recent rut or whatever that we've been in, where we've actually been able to get the ball to him and he's actually been able to kind of let the ball flow in between like maybe him and Saka or whatever, or Madueke on the other side. But I think that might be the key for me. Gyökeres has started basically every single game, and I don't think that should be the case. I know he's like the big striker sign of 55, 60 million or whatever, but at the end of the day, you've got to prioritise winning football matches. And although Gyökeres can put the ball in the back of the net, when it comes to getting involved in build-up, that's not his role. That's not what he should be doing. So I personally say Havertz should start, to be honest, at the Etihad, and then maybe 60th, 70th or whatever, that's when you bring Gyökeres to maybe run down the channels or be a bit of a bully for Gay and Christian. I assume will probably be starting. So, I mean, yeah, I think with us right now, it's a thing where definitely the mentality as well comes into it. I think we definitely struggled in terms of when teams have sat back and forced us to make decisions, who is going to be that guy that's going to take the game by the scruff of the neck? You know, in the first half, as we were speaking about against Chelsea, like City weren't really getting into it like that. But then when you look at the second half, it's boom, Cherki picking up the ball, playing in a eye of the needle pass or creating chances at will. And when you see things like that and you see the technical quality of City, whether people want to talk about their mentality or how or whatever, Pep Guardiola in this time of the season, he never loses, barely ever loses, should I say. So I think the Sunday game, more so than anything else, is a test of mentality more than anything.
I think just to come back to what you were saying originally about how you think the issues are in possession with Arsenal now, I think I disagree with that. I think the reason you've dropped off so much is because the out of possession stuff isn't quite as good as it was.
No,
which
you're right.
Maybe it sounds incorrect, right? Because everyone knows the big problem with you guys is, you only score from corners, you don't create from open play. But I think that's been consistent all the way through. And maybe you could argue your transfer creation's dropped off slightly, but I don't think that's the significant factor that's causing these defeats. Like if we look at the last couple of games, 2-1 to Southampton, you've scored the goal. I don't think that defence at the start of the season concedes 2 goals to Southampton, personally. And then we look at more recently, 2-1 to Bournemouth. Does the defence at the start of the season concede 2 goals to Bournemouth? Probably not. Oh, did you? Maybe it does that. But especially in the manner that these goals were conceded in that game, the defence at the start of the season does not do that. They're individual errors. And it was Zubimendi in this game, in the Southampton game. I think the first one was Ben White, right?
Yeah.
It's not structural things. Arteta's probably the best defensive manager in the world in terms of coaching a structure. And you can see that this, as boring as it is, style of play does work because you were the best team in Europe for the whole first half of the season. That's not luck, is it?
Yeah,
and
right.
The thing that's dropped off for me, I think, is these individual errors. And I think you put that down to fatigue. Like Zubimendi hasn't suddenly become a terrible player. Ben White hasn't suddenly become like Pony. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, no, you're right. 100%, yeah. Definitely.
And I think that's kind of the changing factor for me. I think you said that maybe you've been figured out in the first phase as well, which again is a problem because I'd say for the first 6 months of the season, Arsenal were probably the best team in the first and second phase. It was the final phase where maybe you can say, it's not great.
Yeah, but then
now
even then with the set pieces as well.
Possession.
Yeah, I was going to say, even then with the set pieces now, even that's been patched, to be honest. It's been a long time since we scored from a corner. So even when that's not really working as well, I think when you also mention like the out of possession stuff, I don't know if stats can like bring up this, but when you look like, for example, when Bournemouth or even Southampton, especially for the goal that they ended up scoring the first one, on the transition, we just aren't winning those first or second balls anymore, and we're just not as aggressive tracking back as we were in this first half of the season. Maybe because I know Declan Rice didn't play the Southampton game, it was a bit different, but in the game against Bournemouth, it just wasn't really there. Like we weren't just the lapses of concentration, as you said, the individual errors in this time of the season. It's near enough unacceptable. And I mean, White probably deservedly was dropped for the Sporting game, and again in that game, obviously even in the Southampton game, this isn't obviously the ideal defense that we want to play, because obviously Calafiori and Capio have just been in and out of injuries, same with Timber recently, but this squad and this defense especially should be more than good enough to be not conceding 4 goals to Southampton and Bournemouth. So I think the game yesterday was definitely a shout out to Sport encouraging signs in terms of from a defensive perspective, but I think the main thing is, again, just the football, to be honest with you. And between now and the end of the season, I'm not expecting a tactical tweak, because really and truly it's too late, to be honest. I think we should see that from next season. But my question to you almost is, how do you see City playing? And also, are you confident in City? Because I know City have shown in a lot of cases this season that they have got frailties. Before that Chelsea game, I believe you drew your last 2 with Southampton, West Ham and Forest at home. So do you believe that the City side now is serious?
I'm always very pessimistic about City. So I think at the moment, I'd still lean towards Arsenal winning the league, just because you have the points advantage. You have probably the easier running, I'd say. Yeah. Like naturally, I'd go like 70-30 to you guys at the moment. But equally, this is the most confident I've been all season. And I think it does come down to this Arsenal game at the Etihad. I think if we win it, then I'd probably say we're nearly the favourites to go on and win the league. Yeah. But if it's a draw or you guys win it, I think it's done. There is so much riding on this game. Yeah. And I think it's so difficult to make a prediction because there are so many factors in football. But I think you've got to feel confident at the moment with the past results. The only thing is, I think we have been a bit lucky in these games, you could argue, in terms of the defensive stuff, especially against Chelsea in the first half. We were quite poor and we got away with it to a certain extent, which I don't think we get away with against you guys. But again, it comes down to individual quality so much for us, because we're not a team that relies on structure to the same extent you guys do. We're more about those individual players. It is, will Doku turn up? Will Cherki turn up? Will Semenyo turn up? And that's not something you can really predict or coach. It just either happens or it doesn't on the day. Yeah. And that's what it rides on. I think our ceiling is higher than yours. That's what I will say.
In terms of the players that you've got?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. The levels we can reach, if we play at our best, we will win the game. There's no doubts about that for me. But equally, I think if we can go a lot lower than you guys can. I think your variance in performance is very small. You're a really consistent team, and that's why you're so good in a league format, because that's what you need to do. Like, it's a bit like Liverpool and City for me in that kind of City pool era. Obviously, we were still an exciting team in comparison to what Arsenal are now. Yeah. But in that kind of debate, Man City were the more boring, consistent team. Like, no one wanted to watch a Pep Guardiola side, really.
You're right. Yeah,
like, they were considered boring, and Liverpool were this exciting transitional team. But the problem with being exciting is that you're always giving the opposition chances. That's why you're exciting. So it doesn't really work in a league format. A league format is about beating the mid-table teams, the not-so-good teams, really, really consistently. And I think until very recently, that's what Arsenal were phenomenal at doing. It's not necessarily always about the big games, and I think it actually is here. But it's more about beating those smaller sides really, really well. And I think you guys do that better than us. However, I would say we have the advantage in bigger games.
Yeah. I think in regards to what you're saying in terms of the individual quality, I would say you're right. In terms of, I think there are a lot of players in your team that just technically are just fantastic footballers. You know, with like maybe Rodri, I thought the defence massively was a major issue. But I think in January, I said at the time that the Guehi signing can kind of tweak this title race in your favour. And like, again, he's been class. Same with Kusanov, he's been class for a while. And then I think another thing, like with the issues that you had in terms of maybe like your left back and right back last season wasn't really 100% asserted. Like the in-house options, I know you've gone and signed Nate Murray, but I thought recently he's been a bit better. I thought obviously O'Reilly's arguably one of your players of the season, same with Nunes. But I think the main thing for us as well, I think with us, if we play at our best, I don't think there's a team in the world that can beat us. I think we showed that in the first half of the season. We beat Atletico, we beat Bayern as well. I think when we are actually like playing at our best, we're difficult to stop. I mean, we showed that in the first bit. The only thing is, again, I wouldn't necessarily say it's more of a footballing thing in the game against City. I just think the main thing is the mentality. And also, I think with football as well, sometimes we talk a bit too much about tactics. I think sometimes you just need to look about personality, self-respect. You see a guy in the away end at Stamford Bridge with a bottle, with an Arsenal bottle in his hand, drinking it, and then after you see Sky Sports go to his house the next day to interview him about it. If you're an Arsenal player and you're watching that, are you going to have that level of disrespect? It's as simple as that. And are you going to go away to City and are you going to make a statement? That's, I think, for me, the main thing. The onus is on us to win more so than I think it is for you. From an outside perspective, I know from a point side of things, you have to win to stay in the title race. But when you're winning a title, like, dare I say, you need to have a bit of aura. You know what I mean? Like when you're winning a title, you need to go to sometimes these away grounds and these big games and win them. And I think this season we haven't done that enough. We haven't even scored a goal against a horrendous Liverpool team this season. Chelsea, obviously we beat them a few times now, but again, in the Stamford Bridge, walk away with a draw. We were lucky to when they had 10 men. You look at, for example, the United game at the Emirates, where even the Old Trafford game of the first game of the season, we were lucky to win that game. You look at the Emirates game, we lose quite fairly. Then you've also got the City game at home where we weren't great, to be honest, for the most part. But again, we could draw in the last minute. So it's the thing where in these big games, when you're coming up against your title rivals or your big rivals, if you're not consistently winning those, for me, the Premier League title, obviously, 22 years since you've won one, it's going to feel great either way. But I just think the bragging rights is a little bit different there. So I think the onus definitely is on us to win this game, definitely.
See, I disagree with that. I think from a technical standpoint, which is naturally what I always look at, a league, again, it's not about the big games. It's about beating the crap teams consistently.
Yeah. But
you
you
can say
from like a mental aspect, though.
From a mental aspect, yes, maybe, but really, do vibes actually matter, or does what happens matter? I think what happens matters more. And all the points are worth the same. And yes, obviously it feels better to go and beat Man City than it does to go and beat Burnley, but it all counts for the same. And if you're slipping up consistently against the mid-table sides, you're not going to win the league, even if you win all your big games. And the reality is, for Arsenal, if we look at the Premier League now, what are classed as the big games is probably Man City, maybe Liverpool, Chelsea, and United, right? They're 8 games in a season. Like, you can afford to maybe not. You'll have to win some of them, right? That's not what I'm saying. But you can afford for your form not to be amazing there if you're fantastic against all the other teams. Like, it is more about beating Bournemouth. It's about beating Sunderland. These guys in the middle of the pack that are still really difficult games in the Premier League. It's about beating those guys. Like, a loss to Bournemouth is as significant as a loss to Liverpool.
Yeah, no, of course, in terms of like 3-point shots, yeah. But I just think from a perspective of like the whole reason why there's this issue with us going to the Etihad is because we haven't won there in 11 years. Same way Liverpool haven't won there since 2012. When you have all of this like lingering around these sort of games, and at the end of the day, big six games, they're big games for a reason because you're facing the best and you want to be the best. In order to be the best, you've got to beat the best. I'm not necessarily saying that we have to be Liverpool and Anfield to win the Premier League. Of course not. Like if we win Wolves and Burnley and all of these teams consistently, of course you can still win the title. I just think from a mentality aspect, which has been our main issue over the past few years, bearing in mind we've played some great football in the years before. I don't think this Arsenal team is probably the best team we've had over the past 4 or 5 years that could potentially go and win the league title. The only thing is now is, as you said, is the consistency. So again, when you look at, for example, the mental aspects of that Carabao Cup final, that for me is rejuvenated your season because you've won that game and now it's like, okay, if we can win this game, we can win every game now. And that's why you slapped Liverpool 4-0, destroyed Chelsea 3-0. It's like that old City swagger is coming back. And when you look at, for example, I saw your bench on the weekend, it was just stupid. It was like prime City levels in terms of just the amount of talent that was coming off the bench, whereas us, we've got quite a lot of injuries right now. So yeah, I think this game is make or break this season in terms of, yes, although a draw is good in terms of we're still 6 clear and we have the better run in terms of games, but from a mentality aspect, I want to win. I don't want to set up to like draw or to play not to lose, whatever that saying is. Like I want to go to the Etihad and get 3 points because I think this team is capable of doing that, and we were close to doing it last season. And I think if we almost can kind of, I know City last year aren't maybe as good as they are now in terms of form. I think if you look at that, that should be the motivation. When you look at things like what I was talking about in terms of the bottling and stuff and the whole media narrative against us, you should use that almost as a way to kind of win you the game, you know? So
I don't think Arsenal will use it though, because this narrative has been there. It's been there so long now. Is it anything new? Like
I think now it's hitting levels that it's never hit before though. That's it.
Do you think we were talking before, sorry, on the bottle guy in the stands before the pod? Do you think he's been planted there? I think he has. I don't think that's real.
I think the story is a bit stupid in terms of like apparently he went to the reverse game last season and apparently the Arsenal staff gave him that bottle for like because he needed the water and he's kept it for like 2 years. The only thing I don't get is like why bring that. I don't know. Maybe it's because he saw maybe the Bournemouth game and he knew City was going to win, so he brand the bottle or whatever. But I'm assuming he just brand that bottle to every away ground like he's been to or something over the past 2 years. And I know apparently some City fans that go home and away say that he's like a regular and he goes every game, but apparently I also saw that he was modelling for City with CP company. So it's just like, honestly, I don't know. I don't really care, to be honest, as well, in terms of like whether he is. It's just like, in the moment when I saw it, don't get me wrong, it was funny. I could understand the comedic aspect of it, but even when Sky posted it, it's like, you know what you're doing there. But then when you've gone to the guy's house, giving him a microphone, asking him how it felt to go viral because you made him go viral, it's just like, I wasn't born yesterday, bro. That stuff is just stupid for me. But either way, like I just think, honestly, I want to actually ask you this question. Maybe for you, it's obviously a bit different because you probably are a bit more of a level-headed City fan. with the overall case of the City fans that you speak to, or in the City fan base, do you see Arsenal as a serious threat? Like, are you actually going into this game a bit nervous, or do you think, okay, we're rolling these guys off, or we're going to beat them comfortably? I just want to know. Because I'll be honest, Arsenal fans, but we're shitting it. I'll be honest, a little bit.
Yeah, I think I always I'm pessimistic with City because I think I see it quite logically in a way. Like I like to think I'm not that biased. So I'd say I'm a bit nervous because I know how good you guys can be. But I think that the general consensus is no, you're rubbish. Like most people don't see Arsenal as a threat, and I think that's because they make the jump of this is boring football, this isn't good football. When I don't think there's a correlation there. I think boring football can be very good football. I don't think aesthetics necessarily matter, but I do think the style of play probably in terms of having that aura and that. You get what I mean? That's why it doesn't help because like no one is coming to the Emirates and thinking, oh, we've lost before we've even stepped on the pitch because they know they're always going to be in the game. And I think when you think of the best teams in the Premier League, it's that prime City, prime Liverpool. Like Watford will come into the Etihad. I think Ben Foster said this on one of his podcasts. It's like they know they've lost. It's whether it'll be 6-0 or 7-0 or 8-0. Yeah. And it was always 6-0, 7-0. Like I've been like 3 games against Watford. Each one was like 4-0 plus.
Yeah,
like, it was crazy. And that was the level that these teams were at. Yes, they're probably the best Premier League teams ever. But still, I think to win a Premier League and be considered a threat, you have to be a threat in games. And logically, right, winning 1-0 is basically the same as winning 5-0 in a league format, unless you're really lucky, end up on equal points and goal difference comes in. But for the most part, it doesn't necessarily matter. But when we come back to mentality and aura, which the extent of that matters as well is debatable, but let's just say it does matter. I think that's maybe where Arsenal lack because you're not going and winning 4-0, 5-0, 6-0. It's always 2-0, it's 1-0, and it's effective. But does it give you that swagger? I'm not sure it does.
Not really. No, you're right. So what would you say for Sunday? You got a score prediction maybe? Or
prediction? I think it's going to be a draw, which is, you'll be happy to hear that. I could see a 2-2.
2-2? Interesting. Bit more goal scoring. I'd say my heart is probably saying a 2-1 win. I think we can do it. Whether we will, it's a different issue. And obviously, I think I don't know if you've seen as well yesterday, again, we've had a couple more injuries. So Waleedihio went down around like the 50th minute with like a knee issue. So how serious that is, he limped off the pitch, but he was on the ground for a while. I don't know how serious that is. So I'm expecting, to be honest, if I tell you the team I'm expecting, right, is obviously Raya in goal. I think he might play Mosquera right back, which, I mean, defensively he's great, but he's not a right back. He's like 6'5", bro. I don't want him there. So I personally go Ben White, but I think he might go Mosquera, Saliba, Gabriel, and Capie. If Califer is still not fit, which I don't think he might be, then Zubimendi, I'd say, is going to play with Rice, who, again, is like 50%. I think he will play, but he's not fit, to be honest, at all. And I'd probably say it's Eze in 10. He's back and looked quite good yesterday. And then I'd say the front three is probably Trossard, Mane, and Gyökeres. So it's difficult. Yeah.
See, I didn't know about the Madueke injury, but if that's the lineup, I'd lean towards a Man City win.
Yeah.
Just because I think, again, we talk about the mentality and I mean aura, but that team has no aura.
No aura.
From an attacking perspective, it is so negative. And I think there is something in these games, like psychologically, where if you come in to try and be defensive and proactive, you're probably more likely to lose just because you're already thinking of losing by being proactive and defensive. Definitely. I think reactive is the right word, in fact. Not proactive is the opposite, proactive.
I think you'll probably be reactive as to what, or I think we'll probably be reactive as to what you do in a way. In terms of, I think we'll be chasing the game a little bit in a lot of instances. So again, I just think with the technical quality in that team, it's just not at level to go up and destroy a team in possession, let alone Man City. So yeah, I'd say if that is the team, I'd say I would take a draw, obviously, because that attack is just horrible. But I'd say. I think I'm going to say 2-1 Arsenal. I think we can go there, Nick. Obviously, I'm not probably speaking from a tactical bias, but just from hope, really, to be honest. That's really what I'm going into this with. And although, as you said, like the onus is probably on you to win, I want to win because I just want to be like, okay, we've beaten Man City at the Etihad to win this title. It just feels better. And I think even for the players, although it means the same 3 points as beating Burnley at home, you've beaten Man City at the Etihad. Not many teams can say they've done that. So. That's what I'd say.
I think naturally it does come down to Man City, though. I think it's very much in our hands, right? Would you agree with that?
No,
like I was saying before, if Cherki shows up, if Doku shows up, we will win the game. We have the quality that's going to do that. It's just a matter of, do these guys show up? Which is why it's really difficult to predict because we know how the teams stack up tactically against each other. We know how both teams are going to play, really. And does come down to these individual performances. Like, I can't see Arteta doing something genius here. I don't really see Guardiola doing something different and genius. I think it is how the player's going to perform, which is kind of the boring narrative. It's not what I want either, because after the game, I can't go, did you notice this tactical tweak? Which isn't great. But I think that's what title races come down to, is big players. Like for us before, it was De Bruyne, or it was Gundogan, whoever it was on that run-in. It's about big players stepping up at this point rather than the system. And from that perspective, I think that leans into Man City, because we have these big players, and I'm not sure you guys do, in terms of that big attacking guy who's going to powerhouse you through.
I still say, to be fair, I think Eze can do it. I think he showed it in a few instances this season where when you need him to kind of step up, he can do it. And I think when it almost comes to in a big moment, in a big game, and you need a bit more individual quality, I think in that attack you can probably provide that the most out of the others. So I even like Trossard has scored in a lot of big games, even at the start of the season. I know he's not been great recently, but I can't necessarily count these guys out completely and say they're not going to turn up. It's just it just depends on the game. But I wanted to ask you like a few questions about City before we end. I wanted to ask you, there's a few. I want to start off with like the Bernardo Silva news. Obviously, he's going to be leaving at the end of the season. I know he's a massive, like, for me, for a while, I thought he was like, I wouldn't say overrated, but I didn't think he was that great for large portions over the past couple of years. But I do think when you actually watch the games and you see what he provides, it's almost like a manager's dream in terms of what he can do on and off the ball. So I'd say I'm going to put these questions together in terms of, obviously, how do you feel about him leaving? Do you think it's the right time? And does that also mean that Pep will leave as well? Do you believe that can happen as well?
I'll start with Bernardo. I love that guy. Yeah. He's probably my favourite player. Because like you say, he is having a manager on the pitch, and I think that's so influential. And the thing with Bernardo is he's kind of like a litmus test for me in terms of like, do you know the ball? It's all of these types of players. Like I call them coaches players. I think Saka's one to a certain extent, where they do so much for the team and they're so important, but because they're not necessarily flashy, they don't get that credit. Musiala's another one right now in Bayern Munich who's kind of changing his game. But yeah, what Bernardo does is so good because he makes it look really easy. Like the spaces he picks up in build-up are unbelievable. And he's always in the right place to allow us to play out quite easy. And then he'll pick the right pass and he'll do the right thing. And then he'll stand in the right place defensively and he'll win the ball back. And it's all really simple things. No one's watching it and going, wow, that's like unbelievable. He makes it look so easy. You think you could do that, which is why maybe people don't rate him. But you couldn't do that because it's so difficult. There's no other player in the world apart from maybe Vitinha who could do what Bernardo Silva does, and that's why it's so difficult to replace him, because he is one of one. So you have to then change the system next season because you're never going to replace Bernardo Silva. And I think you do that by maybe bringing in someone like Elliot Anderson and then giving Semenyo a bit of Bernardo Silva's role as well. You've kind of got to partition it across multiple players, which is going to be difficult, but it's what we've managed to do with De Bruyne as well. His role has been split across multiple people. You've got Cherki coming in to kind of replace that creativity, and then you've got other guys in the midfield like Rodri maybe taking up a bit more responsibility there, Bernardo taking up a bit more responsibility, like split it across the whole squad, and then it kind of works out okay.
I think Reinders was meant to kind of do that a bit more as well, isn't it?
Yeah, Reinders has been a bit of a disaster, if we're honest.
A disaster, you reckon?
Disaster harsh, actually.
Yeah.
But in terms of what we brought him in to be, he was meant to be the guy next to Rodri. And we've been looking for this profile for so long now. You think, right, Calvin Phillips came in, he was probably the first one. Nico's come in, he was meant to be that guy, I think, and he just never has been. Reinders, I'm probably missing some as well. Gundogan, when he came back.
Yeah, when he came back, You've been looking for that midfielder to partner Rodri. I think with Phillips one as well. Yeah. I think with Phillips, it was like, I think he was meant to just kind of be like the guy behind Rodri. I don't know if they were meant to like play together, or maybe like he was meant to kind of unlock Rodri, but I don't know. But obviously that one's flopped. I thought, to be fair, I think Gonzalez this season when he has played has been quite good, especially when Rodri was out. I thought he stepped in and done a very good job. So I wouldn't necessarily write him off. I'd say that he can definitely still maybe come in and do a job. And he's also still quite young as well. But I think with Reinders, I think first like couple games, I think even like the games that you were losing at the beginning, like maybe like a Brighton or whatever at the start, you get like he was maybe performing okay and maybe he'll get the odd goal here and there, but I just think the technical level maybe I've seen from him hasn't probably been what I was expecting, to be honest, especially for the money. I think
on the ball for me, Reinders is great. Like he does everything you'd want. Like he can play that role next to Rodri in possession, fine, easy. It's the off-ball stuff. Like he is so poor out of possession, and I just didn't really see it coming. Like AC Milan fans always said, "Oh, it wasn't that good," but you look at the stats and think, is it a bit of laziness here? Yeah. Maybe. Like, and didn't necessarily think he just was that bad in duels, but mate, he's poor, and that's seen him being attempted to be reinvented as this kind of like false 90 player kind of playing in the pockets. But we've just got players there who are better. Like, you're not going to play Reinders there over Cherki. You're not going to play Reinders there over Foden. And Foden didn't even get a game. Like, there's so much quality in those positions that there's not space for Reinders there.
Yeah, so I think like maybe like Marmoush as well, friend, isn't it?
Yeah, kind of there. Where they're good players, like in a vacuum. Reinders and Marmoush, they're great. But do they fit into this City system and squad at the moment? Not really. There's not a role for them there, which I think leaves both their futures a bit uncertain. But Nico's another one where I look at him and think, you're great, but is there a role for you here? Yes, when Rodri's not playing, yes, there is. But can you play next to Rodri? Not really. You don't offer enough different. Like, there's far too similar in that midfield. You need someone a bit more attacking as well. And I think Elliot Anderson is hopefully that guy that will finally be able to play next to Rodri. And then Nico can continue as the Rodri backup. I think that is the profile we need right now.
I was going to say, so you don't think that Nico can maybe allow Rodri to kind of be a bit more forward and almost be that 8? Like, do you think maybe Gonzalez can kind of unlock Rodri in that sense, maybe?
I did at the start of the season. That was something I pushed for quite a lot, is when Rodri comes back, I'd like to see this. But I think since Rodri's come back, on the ball, he's still as good as ever. He's brilliant. But just in terms of the distance he can cover, I don't think he could play in that 8 in terms of getting up and down now. Probably not. Like, you look at someone like Declan Rice and Zubimendi, and that's kind of the partnership you want to create in terms of those dynamics. And Declan Rice is like a physical beast, right? At PSG, you've got Vitinha, Neves. Neves is a physical beast. I don't think Rodri is that now. You want him more as that deeper player who's doing the less running. And I think Elliot Anderson, he's your physical beast. That's kind of how I see it panning out.
Yeah. I was going to say as well in regards to Foden, do you think maybe what's going on there again? I think this season he had maybe like a decent start, but I just think, again, I think he's just kind of struggling to find his feet right now. And it almost as if like this happens quite a bit in terms of, obviously when he was coming in as a youngster, you're not expecting him to play week in, week out, but I thought in the lockdown season he kind of almost finally kind of cemented himself in that City team. But then again, like the seasons after that, especially like the treble season, like he couldn't just find a birthing spot in that team. And then when you look at the season after, it's PFA Player of the Year, and it's just like playing his best football. But again, over the past 2 years, we're just not seeing it. So what do you think is going on there?
I think I've never rated Foden as highly as other people do. I think he's very much like City squad player level. I don't think he's ever. I don't think he's ever going to be the guy, because he's not creative enough. And to be the guy in this midfield, especially when you've got Erling Haaland up front, like, you don't really need a goal scorer, which is why Foden maybe doesn't play as much, because he's not a creative 10 like people think of him as. He's a goal scoring 10. That's what he does really well. I think maybe. Sorry?
I would say he's very good technically though, especially like in the pockets, like receiving it. Do you not think?
Oh yeah, but he's not a guy that will receive in the pockets. Cherki will get it, he'll turn, and then maybe he'll find a good pass. Foden's not that guy. You think of him turning in the pocket and hitting it, right, and scoring. I think in the box, he's a great mover. He's another one that fits into a similar profile as Reinders for me at the moment. Of, yes, they're great players, but in this current system, is there a space for them?
Wow.
Maybe not. But I think the systems change so often that eventually, start of next season, we'll tweak it again, and Foden probably comes back in. Like, these are valuable squad players to have, which is why I think they'll stay. And it's why you want so many different profiles, because you don't want to get boxed in. And I think that's what's happened with Arsenal to a certain extent. You're very like for like in terms of your team. Like, you don't really have lots of different profiles. And I think that makes it difficult in terms of finding solutions where you can't. For example, in that cup final against City, it's not working. How do you change that? You can't change it, because the guys who are coming onto the bench do the exact same thing almost as the people who are in the team, right? Whereas if you put a press, for example, on us, we'll be able to find that solution because we have every possible profile of player sat on the bench waiting to change it. And I think that's really, really important, especially now. Maybe 5-10 years ago, you wanted like-for-like players, but with how diverse the Premier League is tactically, man, you need different players. And this season already, we've seen us go through 3 different systems, arguably. Like, we started off with the narrow spaces, really technical. Then we switched to being quite physical when we had to. And now, again, we've brought the wingers back in, and it's kind of like a hybrid, mixed approach to both. Like, you are going to play different styles of football. It is going to be different. So these guys are valuable. I can see, just to go back to Bernardo Silva, I could see Foden maybe having a big role in replacing him, because something Bernardo's great at is being really tactically flexible. Like, he can play as a winger, he can play in the 10, but he can also do the deep stuff really well. And at the start of the season, what we saw was Foden kind of playing as an 8. He was dropping really deep at times in the press, being that technical player that's going to play you out easily. And he was really, really good at that. I think that's where his best games have come for a while now in a City shirt. So I wonder, when Bernardo leaves, do you see like a midfield pairing of Rodri, Anderson, and then maybe you play Foden in there as well and just let him drop a bit deeper?
You think Anderson is coming City then? You think that's new?
I'm so sure Anderson's coming City. Unbelievable, man. What play.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
It's between City and United. You're not going to United. I don't think there's any metric makes you look at that and think, the only thing is money, but we have more money. So
you get it, definitely. I was going to say the final question I was going to ask is I think it's the $1 million question. Is Pep Guardiola going to be there next season? I think if enough people leave, maybe that was a part of his core. Like for example, the Rodri stuff. I don't know. I don't think Rodri maybe would be pushing for a move during the summer, but I think I don't know. Maybe if it'd be, I think he might I think he might be quite reluctant to maybe get that contract extension over the line, but I don't think he'll maybe push through a move in the summer. I wouldn't say that.
I think Rodri's close to signing a new contract. I think I saw the other day. Allegedly. I don't know how truthful that is, but that's interesting. But yeah, with Guardiola, I think it's a difficult one to predict because no one really knows. But he had the whole thing with his wife recently where they broke up, and apparently it was because he was always in Manchester, he's working too much. And then they got back together earlier this year. And to me, that kind of says he's gone to her and gone, I'll finish the season and then I'll come and be with you and we'll have a rest. I think he's gone. I think he's been gone for ages. Like, he had a restaurant in Manchester and it was losing money, so it would make sense to get rid of it.
Yeah.
But it's lost money for a long time and he hasn't got rid of it. It was very much a passion thing. This year, he's sold it, it's gone. I think most indicators point to the fact that Guardiola will leave.
So his wife doesn't live in Manchester, no?
Sorry?
His wife doesn't live in Manchester?
I think she lives in Barcelona at the moment. I don't know. They had a whole thing with it. They broke up and then they got back together.
Oh, okay.
But the whole reason they broke up was based on he works too much kind of thing in the media. But anyway, I think whoever replaces Guardiola obviously won't be at his level, but I think it's not like Ferguson leaving United, for example, where the whole system revolves around him. Obviously, Guardiola's an important part, but it runs as a system. Man City is Man City. Whether Guardiola's there or not, it will still function effectively. And if the next guy's Xabi Alonso, if it's Enzo Maresca, they will be a good manager. And yes, the level might drop slightly, but I don't think it will drop massively. I think we'll still be very, very good. I'm going to reverse it now. I've got a question for you about the Arsenal. Let's work on the assumption that Arsenal, you lose the league, and let's say you lose it by quite a few in the end. You won't want to think about that. Let's say you lose it by 4 points or something, generational bottle. You lose the Champions League as well. You come out with no trophies. It's really bleak. Would you be Arteta in or Arteta out? Because I think there's an obvious answer that's sensible. But
that is a tough question. I've been asked that question a lot recently, to be honest. I think the main thing for me is I think it depends on how we bottle it. I think if it's a thing where, especially I think in that Bournemouth game, in a lot of cases, I thought Arteta kind of set up the team relatively well with what we had. But if it's a thing where the players just aren't doing their way, I think the main thing right now is the mentality aspect. If they just don't seem up for it, like if, for example, you see them like bottling out tackles and not really trying the actual hardest on the pitch and maybe making more individual mistakes that kind of cost us, then I think it's difficult to solely blame the manager, because I think the manager, bearing in mind, I think obviously he has been given the keys in terms of what we've spent and him buying the players that we've bought. But I think in a lot of cases, some signings maybe like Gyökeres aren't maybe players that he wanted. But I think in a lot of cases as well, he's got, especially this attack, performing at a very good level. To be honest with you, with the actual, by maybe Saka, maybe as if you classify him in that attacking breed as well, that attack is barely top 4 level, let alone a Premier League title winning level. So I think he's working overtime to even get us into that sort of position. So I don't think as a manager, really, realistically, that we can get that would instantly push over the line, unless it's like, I don't know, Pep. You know what I mean? Like, so I think it's difficult from that perspective. I think if it's a thing where it looks so obvious that it is mainly down to Arteta, then I think conversations need to be had, honestly, in the summer, I would say. But I think it generally just does depend on the nature of how the season ends, to be honest.
I think that surprises me, because I think sacking Arteta would be the worst thing Arsenal could possibly do. Because I think so much
I want to say sack now.
Football comes down to just getting unlucky in the moments, whether that's the manager's fault or not, is very debatable, because I think the influence the manager can actually have
is not much.
Smaller than people think. It's not as big as people think. Often it does come down to, has the player made an individual error, like Zubimendi did against Bournemouth, for example. That's not Arteta's fault. Arteta set the team up well in that game. So I think the fact that Arsenal can get so close so many times shows that Arteta's a really good coach, just by speaking in terms of like variance. Eventually it's got to go your way. Like, you can't lose forever.
But that's what I'm saying. But how long can you consistently not win in a way? And also, if it was a thing where, don't get me wrong, listen, I love Arteta. I think what he's done for us has been incredible, and I wouldn't dare say sack him or whatever as of now. But The only thing is that how long can you go without winning not only the Premier League or Champions League, but not winning other major honours to at least have that mental aspect of knowing how to win? That's why I think the Carabao Cup was so important, because although it's not the biggest trophy in the world, it shows that mentality aspect. Okay, we can get over the line, we can win trophies, and almost you need that. Like I remember City in the Centurion season or in the season after, where they almost won that Carabao Cup to set them up to win the bigger trophies. And I think that's what the main important thing of winning trophies like that are. If you're not winning that as well, and if it's a thing where consistently it's a mentality issue, it's consistently a placing or whatever, eventually, as I said, it does in some cases have to come down to the manager. In some cases, as I said, I think it's difficult to say Arteta's got a goal, because again, like, that is a very dangerous thing to do. Because if you, let's say for example, get rid of him and you get in a manager who again needs a project, needs a process, needs to bring in his players, we are crumbling down the table and we won't get anywhere near back to challenging or winning titles or whatever with another manager, in my opinion.
Okay.
So
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Right. Let's say on the assumption that if you do lose the league, you lose the Champions League, we still got that situation. You keep Arteta. What do the club need to do to be able to improve the squad to a position where you think, okay, we'll go and win next year? What do you think the next steps are for this Arsenal team?
Players have to go. Like, a lot of players have to go, to be honest. I think right now, I think there's going to be a bit of a tweak when it comes to like FFP. I think FFP is not going to be a thing very soon.
It's,
so there's that.
Yeah, it's something else, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. But...
Yeah. So there's that, which will probably be happy for you with your charges on the way. But I think that's going to be gone. And I think what we are in right now is I think we're in a net negative because we're not selling enough. So I think players just have to go. I think there's a lot of guys, especially in that attack, where thank you for the service, but we have to move on. We have to part ways. So there's that. I think we'll get into that a little bit more when the season ends in terms of who realistically is going to leave, because I think a lot of things can change. But yeah, I think that is probably the main thing. We'd have definitely to get a right back for me, because we just need a guy that's an actual right back, not just a centre back that you convert to right back like all the other ones. So I'd say that. I'd say definitely backup number 6. If Norgar's still not going to play, we might as well just sign him on, to be honest with you. I think getting an actual 6 that Arteta can trust in those big games, or in games where we can't play Zubimendi or whatever, because Zubimendi's played like 60 games lately this season. He's not going to do that next year. His body will deteriorate. Like, I can almost guarantee Brandon Martin's going to World Cup as well. So there's that. And yeah, I think just reinforcements up front, left winger, striker for me as well, again, need to be rectified. So I think that for me realistically is what I'd go for going into the summer. But again, there's so much time between now and the summer. If we win that game away at City, we go on to win that league, then obviously sunshine and rainbows. Or if you, for example, this was even more crazy, we go and do a double and you win the Champions League, which is possible, we could get to the final. It's like there's so much doom and gloom right now around Arsenal, where sometimes when you take the perspective out of it and you look at it, it's like this could still be a generational season for me. So I think it depends, but yeah. That's what I say.
You mentioned the Chargers there as well, which provoked another question just to finish off. Imagine, right, you lose at the Etihad. You're like, again, we're in a situation where Arsenal, they've bottled it big time going into like the last game of the season. You're like 3-4 points behind. Would you be happy at that point if Man City had won the league, but then we get hit with the Chargers, get like a points deduction, so technically Arsenal have won the league? How would you feel in that context?
That is, I don't know how I would feel, to be honest. Actually, that is, yeah. I think I'd still be happy, because that means we'd fairly have won the league. And I think when you look at, for example, 3-4 weeks of bad form can't necessarily overwrite 7-8 months of fantastic performances. You can still say from that side of things, yeah, Arsenal do deserve it, definitely. But I think that's like almost a freakish thing. Like, I don't think, to be honest with you, your points deduction is going to become. I don't think really anything's going to come of your charges, to be honest with you. But I'm not really too 100% educated on as to specifically when it's happening or whatever. So I can't really comment. But yeah, I think that's dreamland. To be honest with you, I don't think that could happen. But if that were to happen, obviously, I'd still celebrate it, definitely.
Really? I think that's a fake win then. I wouldn't. If that happened to City the other way around, for example, I wouldn't feel like you've won it. It's a bit like the AFCON, right, where Senegal won it. And technically Morocco have won it. I don't know if they've reversed it or not. I don't think.
No, I think that's horrendous. I think for me, because I think if that would happen in the moment, like a day after, where they would overrode the decision, then fair enough, that makes sense. But 2 months is stupid. I think with us as well. I think if it's a thing where I just think mentally what that would do, like, to be honest with you, because yes, you've technically gone over the line, but not through means of yeah, that's what I'm saying. Not through your own football, not by your own means. So obviously, I don't know whether I'd celebrate, but when you look at it again, it's 22 years since he last won a league title. It's one of those ones. But yeah, I think that one's difficult. I probably wouldn't be happy, but I guess I'll take it. To be honest.
Right. Anyway, I think we'll wrap up there then. Thanks for coming on, Waleed. A very successful day.
Thank you very much.
I've just stuck my toe out. Or outro. Anyway, if you're listening on Spotify, make sure to give us a 5-star rating. This is a 5-star podcast, and hit follow if you're on YouTube. Subscribe, give a like, get in the comments as well. Tell us who you think will win the league. Do you think City will win it, or will it be Arsenal? And we'll catch you on the next one.